This is how it is. So that means every object, generally what it actually hides for me, what the nature of Ishvara. Because I see object, I miss the Upahita. I see the form which is an Upadhi, and that the intelligence is as though what? When the intelligence manifests as the form, it fools me. I don't see the intelligence, I only see the form. So this is what it is. So now, Ishvara has another Upadhi, and that is what? Jiva Upadhi. Jiva is this individual. So that means this Upadhi is what? What is the reality? Here he's now if basically you are not seeing the Upahita, that which is the reality, and you take Upadhi to be reality, how will you engage in this world?
Only with forms.
Only with forms. And then you are specially connected with one form. Right? You are not equally connected to all forms. You are specially connected to only one form. So that means it becomes I and what? Everything else. When it becomes I and everything else, then what? Your eyes see what? So many different forms, and the eyes have been given what? Some aesthetic value. So what will you do? You see something beautiful, then what? Not only you enjoy something beautiful, but then you want to what?
Acquire it.
Acquire it.
Desire starts.
The whole thing starts. Then if you are able to get it, now see the scenario, that you are very intelligent and you want this object and it comes to you. Okay? Now when it comes to you, then you say, oh, I'm really happy. But by the time that what, if you, let's say you see a flower and you are very enthralled by the beauty of the flower, you keep it with you for 2 minutes, will you keep looking at it? Immediately your mind will go somewhere else. So that means it does give you what? Momentary pleasure. It's not that it doesn't. If it did not give you, there is no gain. It does give you pleasure, but what then happens is what? That it diminishes.
Law of diminishing.
Law of diminishing value kicks in. So that means that which was there, which was so fanciful earlier, has become what? It's okay. So in that case, what has happened?
You look for the next one.
Exactly. You lose really value for it. It's still with you, but you lose what? Value for it. Then you look for something else which will give you a kick. Now that goes on. The game goes on.
Never ending.
Never ending game. Now, even if you still have value, like for gold or whatever money that you have, it's not that your value has gone down, but that you will have it tomorrow. What is the nature of the universe? Manifest, unmanifest. What does it mean? Changing all the time. Changing means unpredictable. So you never know what you have today is going, what is going you're going to have tomorrow. So that means even if you have value for it, will it give you happiness? No, because anxiety kicks in. When you are not in touch with reality, all this, don't tell me, yeah, so what if I know the reality or not? Hey, all these problems will occur when you don't know the reality. So that means what? Then the anxiety will kick in. Because the nature of universe is what? That your desires are also changing, and the objects are also changing, and also what? Your capacity to hold on to that given object is also not sure. So you continue to manipulate in a universe in a way to what acquire things that you like and retain what you like, and then by the time your own desires change, and then what, go for something new. And that keeps you going. But if this is just a happy story of just trying to acquire and to keep and retain and all, but many times you don't get what you like. In that case, what will happen? So that means when you have it, again anxiety and what, there is a kind of some happiness, some few moments of happiness, but again anxiety, insecurity, because you don't know. Again, and if you don't get it, more of a problem, frustration, anger. So with this orientation, you can go on and on and on. And basically, what you are searching for is happiness, but what you end up having, whether you have it or not, what you end up having is what?
Basically frustration.
Frustration. Anxiety, frustration, uncertainty, anger, the low self-esteem, thinking the world is unfair, all this. So that means every form, due to ignorance of the reality, has become what? A bundle of what? All these conclusions. Bundled. Because we have lived again and again and again as a form, and again and again and again we have interacted with this universe, and again and again and again we have what? Either our things are changing, the things that we strive for are more, so there is always a distance. So this is what the game goes on. The game is between what? Based on ignorance. Ignorance is of the nature that upadhi is taken to be reality. Upahita is what? Hidden from our understanding. That is ignorance. So that means what then happens is that we are what? Searching for happiness but carrying loads of dissatisfaction and sense of failure and frustration. So now, how to undo it? The more we engage, the more we acquire. We can't get out of it.
We're all like, we're the small eye trying to become a bigger eye.
Exactly.
Trying by acquisition.
Yes.
Whereas we are actually the biggest eye if you want to.
Absolutely.
You don't need to have anything.
Absolutely.
That's
So
all.
that's a problem. That exactly is the problem. That you, retaining this, you want to become little bigger, and that little bigger is a problem because you are in a changing world, your desires are changing, the objects are changing, your capacity to retain those objects are changing, people are arranged
And
in a
then when
way
you become a slightly
that-
bigger eye, there's somebody who looks like a bigger eye.
Exactly.
Unless you are smaller than that eye. So you're perpetually chasing, trying to make them bigger
You're
eye.
permanently chasing. There is no end to this chasing. Then some spiritual person comes and they say, oh, this world is, don't be interested in this world because it will never give you satisfaction. And then just close your eyes, detach yourself from the world because the world is not going to give you. Hey, the world itself has upahita. That is what you need to recognize. But if you detach yourself from the world, what will you connect to? Where there is upadhi, that's exactly where there is upahita. The nature of the problem is you are missing upahita. By detaching from the world, you are going to get nowhere. Upahita is where upadhi is. So that means it is only what is required is to remove your ignorance and see upahita. That's all is required.
Connect with the right world.
Yeah. Deal with the right world. Don't deal with what the world of your imagination. So that means as long as there is a distinction between me, the bhokta, bhokta is the enjoyer, and the object of enjoyment is separate from me as long as this is the orientation you are run for a life. Lifetimes. Lifetimes. This is why when you listen to Vedanta, you have to shift. You can't go back. And again, oh yeah, you have your relationship with objects have to change. Your relationship with the situations have to change. You have to tell a different story.
I'm not the bhokta. The enjoyer in me is a bhokta.
So the different story is a little bit careful. We have to be, with the new story we have to be careful. Because it can't become simplistic story also. It has to become an intelligent new story based on facts that Vedanta is providing. So one thing is my orientation that my happiness comes from my getting things the way that I want, and that is how it is. That orientation has to change. Because if you retain that orientation, you will never be able to shift to this vision of oneness. So this is the problem with when people listen to Vedanta, they are unable to change the orientation. So therefore, this is, one has to see everything is manifestation of one reality. And one also has to recognize that whether you get that object or it's not like you are told not to get that object. That is a big mistake people make. You may still want it because these are all objects. But my happiness, my permanent happiness lies in this object is my conclusion.
It should not become an extension of my identity.
Absolutely. Neither this is your identity, nor that object is going to give you the final happiness. But that interaction is necessary. Necessary interaction. You don't need to withdraw from that interaction. And intelligently navigate that interaction. And see whether you are still operating from the old story or you are able to shift to a new story. And take it as a challenge. Lovely. Life will become so easy, I tell you. All your burdens will go.
So have desire, but not bonding desires.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay, now all this, yes. Yes. It's true. This is fact. So what we had made a distinction between desires and binding desires. But all that will come later. But here he says that the world is set up as what? Bhokta and Bhogya. And both are an appearance, both are upadhis on what? One upahita. The two upadhis, one is what? Bhogya. Bhogya is all the different objects. And one upadhi is what? Bhokta. Me, the enjoyer. And other is what? All the different objects of enjoyment. Both are having what? One upahita. Which is free from being both. Which is both, without which both cannot exist, but it's free from being both. So this is what is the whole thing that one needs to realize. One needs to recognize in
and we don't
one's
have to
lifetime.
think that why Ishvara is doing all this.
Yeah, exactly. See, one thing is very, very good. Now here, see the language that we use shows how much, see, when you say Ishvara is doing this, you are attributing some kind of a will on part of Ishvara. Then you are again making Ishvara an entity who's sitting there and says, okay, now Rajan has to go through that and Anna has to go through that. Ishvara has what? Ishvara, when you say, it is manifesting as all the different forms, and what? It sets the rule of the game through series of laws. Series of laws means what? Physical laws, biological laws, psychological laws, epistemological laws, laws of karma. So all these different laws. Does it have a will of its own? Is it like when you fall, is it like Ishvara wants it, now today I want to make Pankaj fall? No. No. So that means if you attribute will to Ishvara, that Ishwarni Ichha Che, that is a very dangerous, because so many bad things happen to so many people, then you will make God into what? Some kind of a sadist.
But we can say that it is Ishvara's will to create all this.
Yeah, that is the
Why did
only
he
time
create, we don't know.
he says sa so kamayata. So that means there was this that let me manifest as many. Taittiriya Upanishad says that. And then having manifested as many, then what? Then there are laws. Laws which govern the manifestation. So therefore, what we have to see is that bhokta and bhogya are both upadhis. There is one which is what? Ishvara, which is what? Akarta. If you attribute intention to Ishvara, Ishvara will become what? Highly partial entity.
Like what we are thinking about.
Exactly. This is very important. Our teacher, here it says it is akarta. Akarta means that if you cannot attribute, this is again another level. See, this is how Ishvara itself has to be understood at so many different levels. The first verse you thought you understood Ishvara completely. Now there is build-up. If you have not shifted at the first level, second level of shift, your mind is not available because you are still operating from some other understanding. That's why following Vedanta and its logic is so critical, because it builds on the previous one. If the previous one you haven't registered, the next one is going to go above. So therefore, in this verse, it says every form is what? An upadhi. And the upadhi, now, from the standpoint of one person, it is set up as what? Bhokta and bhogya. And that's what keeps fooling you for lifetimes. Then, it also says, when the whole setup is done, can you call Ishvara as the one with one intention that each form has to be like this and that one has to be like that? No. So this is why we say the intention is let me be many, and by manifestation what comes into manifestation are forms and then the laws. So that means the laws do not have any intention. Please understand that. So our teacher at a simple level, he used to say, now imagine there is a tree which is standing and you go and you rub against the tree. And what happens? You rub the tree, what happens? You get rubbed in the process. Now when you get rubbed in the process, you say, tree, did you do it? The tree will say, yes, I did it. Because if you had not rubbed, you would not have. Then he says, but you are so mean. Then the tree will say, I didn't come running after you to rub it. I am standing there. You choose to rub and you got rubbed in the process. This is how Ishvara is. Sets the laws, rules of the game. Sets up a game and sets rule of the game. Rule of the game is all the different laws. The laws of gravity are there. You can't do anything about it. You can't be arrogant and say, oh, what law of gravity? I don't believe in it. It's not a matter of believing or not believing. It is there, you better recognize it. Because if you don't recognize it, what will happen? You will try to walk out, and what will happen? You will fall. When you fall, will you say, hey, the laws of gravity are so mean? Will you say that? No. They just do the job of what? And their job. So therefore, there is no intention on part of Ishvara. Ishvara manifesting as laws has no intention. But the laws are infallible.
We all are governed by that.
We are all governed. Nobody can bypass any law. Neither we can bypass epistemological law. Epistemological law means what? That the mouth that you have is able to make the sounds. But those sounds, they have the capacity of carrying the meaning. You didn't create that.
Yes.
That using that sound in a given way will create meanings in your mind is an act of intelligence. That is what we call epistemological laws. We operate within all of that. We use it all for our interaction. So now, one thing is very important, that when we say that there is a law of gravity, so therefore you can't do anything about it. In fact, it's not totally true. Once you know the presence of the law of gravity, you can live your life intelligently. Where does it start? Start by not falling.
Not jumping.
That means it's not like everything is given and you just have to be like a mechanical person go through life. You have a choice either to be oblivious to the laws or incorporate those laws in your dealing with the world. Now, it doesn't only stop there. The laws of gravity not only you use to not fall, you can use it to send spaceship, shuttle to a space, using the laws. So that means you have been given the capacity to what? Live intelligently and collapse so many possibilities that are there in the universe. And while you collapse the possibilities, Ishvara remains what? Akarta. This is how it is. So that means this is further the nature of Ishvara. There is no intention. All the forms are given, upadhis are given possibilities, they are given possibilities to collapse. The entire show takes place within this intelligence. It keeps on manifesting what? Different forms based on what? The possibilities that we have collapsed. Itself is without any intention. Now, let us look at the other way. If you, most of the time, people attribute, now let's see, this is what I say, demonstrate what Vedanta is saying, then you take a different position and you see how logically it falls apart. So we have to do that. Here what I have done is demonstrated how the laws have no intention. It is a demonstration. It's a statement, I demonstrate, then you take. Now let us assume, like in many traditions, that we attribute some goodness to Ishvara. That is what another postulation which is going against what Vedanta is saying. If we do that, because it's a very popular thing that people say God is all good, it's all love. This is what going against what Vedanta is saying. It sounds wonderful. The first hearing is what? Your Vedanta is what? There's no intention, nothing, just one intelligence which governs everything. Sounds boring. When I add some masala, oh, it's all love, it's all compassion, oh, it touches my heart, it sounds so wonderful. We are all like, get carried away, oh yeah, this teacher is so loving and so, yeah, this is how human mind is, fragile. Because the minute you start giving an attribute, you get into trouble, logical trouble. We don't see that. So there was this person who was Carl Jung. Carl Jung was a brilliant man, German. So, Utah is very happy.
Swiss.
Swiss? Okay, not German, sorry. Swiss German. Is Swiss German? Swiss German? So German speaking. Swiss.
At least German speaking.
At least German speaking. So Carl Jung was a very brilliant man. He said, because in that time, the popular notion of God is what? It's all loving, it's all, it's all compassion, God knows it all. This is all, that's why when people send me these WhatsApp messages, and they send me messages which are so opposed to what I'm saying, but they are not able to register. People have difficulty in getting things. So, they'll send me some, oh yeah, God knows it all. Hey, God knows it all, God wishes, and God will never do anything bad to you. You're making it some kind of an individual who this is all contrary to what Vedanta is saying. We don't say that. So now postulation. Postulation is, he said, if you attribute only good to Ishvara, the God, then when you see the world, you see only good? No. You see so many bad things. So that means you see hunger, you see poverty, you see wars, you see abuse, you see violence, you see wars, you see everything. So if God is only good, where will you attribute all this to? Because you see it. You have to account for it somewhere.
Second one.
To the second one, to the Saturn. So that means now you have created two entities. One is all good and the other one is all bad on Saturn.
Like a Hindi movie.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, there is a constant struggle between good and the Saturn. There is a constant struggle. And who seems to be winning? Who seems to have an upper hand?
Won't like to say it, but it is Saturn.
Because you see more chaos than you see more love. And so that means, then he is very smart. He says, oh my God. So that means this Saturn seems to have so much of an upper hand over this God. He's all goody-goody. So he's as helpless as me fighting the Saturn. So why should I pray to this God who's equally helpless as I am?
Or should I start aligning to Saturn?
Because he's more powerful.
Probably.
Yeah, absolutely. So that means these are the logical, valid, what sounds good. We are not here to accept what sounds good. Vedanta is not feel-good factor. Vedanta is reality. Reality means you have to be clear. You have to see things as they are. If you make a mistake in seeing things how they are, you operate from your vision of the world and not the realities. And the minute you operate from your vision of the world, which is not in keeping with realities, you are in for suffering. You can't avoid it. You can't avoid it. Because then you can say, I have this unflinching faith in this God. And when things don't happen your way, you will say, oh God, I've been praying so much. You're all love, you're all compassion, you're all power, and this much you could not do for me. This will happen. This cannot but happen. That means the minute your construct of the universe is different from what is, you will get into trouble. You have no choice but to remove all your constructs, which are all wrong, and rebuild on reality. Rebuild your vision on reality. Otherwise you get stuck. This feel good, I want things to be the way I want them to be. Hey, things don't, you have to align to what is. You can't create your own fantasies. Feeling good, it doesn't work for Vedanta. So therefore, this is another thing. See, this is what? Demonstration that how the laws don't have intention. Then taking a postulate, let us assume that the God has intention and is all good. Then what are the logical fallacies? If this is how the whole Vedanta works. And if it is done like that, and if it is understood like that, there is no scope for going back. Oh yeah, now God, why doesn't it have it? You can't have those questions. That means you haven't understood.
So it's all operated by impartial laws.
Impartial laws. The laws are impartial. Impartial, they apply. But if you understand the laws, you can use the laws to your advantage. That capacity is given to you. Prayer is like that. Once you understand that the laws of action and result are in place, you can add one more action in your favor. Just like the laws of gravity are given, but you can use it to send what? A shuttle to a space. You can do that. It's not like it's given so everything is fixed. That's why you need intelligent living. Intelligent living means recognize the presence of Ishvara, recognize the manifestation of Ishvara's many laws, align to those laws and what? Use them for your benefit. Use them to know the truth of Ishvara, which happens to be your truth. That is the smartest person on this earth. Use it. Because Ishvara is revealing itself to you. So, now, the next verse, so he is Akarta. Now, here he says, Natva Devam Sarva Pasha Pahani Kshinait Valai Janma Mrityu Prahani Tasya Abhidhanya Tritiya Deha Bhede Vishwa Aishwarya Kevala Apta Kama. So now, this verse is very interesting because up to now, we understood that all that is here is Ishvara and every form is what? Manifestation of Ishvara. Every law is manifestation of Ishvara. Yeah. So if your understanding is that, and that is, if that is the final understanding, then what will happen? Who are you? Ishvara is what? One very big entity. It is all forms, all laws, and you are what? One of the manifestation. So you are what? One part of a huge entity called Ishvara. But Vedanta doesn't stop there. Vedanta goes one step further. What Vedanta says that this entity, which is Ishvara, the all intelligence, in English, in Sanskrit you call it Sarvajnaha Sarvashaktiman. Sarvajnaha means all knowledge, Sarvashaktiman means all power, which brings about the universe, which is everywhere in this universe. So, this Ishvara itself is what we call Parinami Upadana Karana. Parinami Upadana Karana means it is changing all the time. How is it changing all the time? Because the objects that the given entities are always in a constant flux. The laws are as though constant, they apply. But the minute I collapse, use a given law to act, it has to, the universe has to change to give me what? The result of that action. So that means, now imagine, you are in a manufacturing plant. The minute you have used some resources to produce that machine that you produce, what the world has changed with what? One additional machine.
And some reduction of raw material.
Exactly, and reduction in raw material. So that means this is how it is. The world is changing depending upon what? The choices that we make. You reduce one stock and you increase another stock. And the machine that you make has to, if you can only make a right machine if you follow, if you understood the laws properly and you use those laws properly to make a sound machine. If you have not understood the laws properly, you will make a machine which will conk off in 5 days. It will not provide refrigeration for a longer time. So the laws are a given, but the use of the laws to produce things are what given to you as a possibility. The minute you collapse the possibility, what happens? The world has to change. So this is why, please understand, Ishvara for us is not a fixed entity. Parinami upadanakara. It's a work in making. You take it as a fixed entity, what will happen is Ishvara will become outdated. This is what, we went to Anaikatti and there was this man. He was a very funny man. He is the one who had listened to, maybe he is going to listen to this one also. So he listened to all my talks. He said, I have listened to all your videos in fast forward. So fast forward means, you know how you can increase the speed. So you can, that 1 hour class you can hear in, let's say, 40 minutes or something. So like increase speed. So he said, it's interesting. He says, you know what, there are all these genetic discoveries which are on the way. So that means you'll be able to make what, clones, and you'll be able to do so many things. And he says, so that means this Ishvara will become redundant. So many things you will see in this world. 15, he says, all these technologies are all just emerging. And they will become reality. And then what? You think Ishvara is creating the man? Hey, I'll be able to do it under test tube. So it will, what he was saying is, it will make Vedanta redundant. I told him, it is like, go back 100 years ago, and a man or a woman, let's say, man, is going all the way to the river to fetch water. At the time of the sunset is what? Lighting a candle. And then in order to climb the mountain is what? Walking. Then somebody tells him, 100 years from now, you'll be living in a different world where you don't have to go to the river and fetch water. You just open one tap and the water will fall. You don't have to light the matches. You just have to switch on one light and the light will come. And you don't have to climb the mountain. There is going to be one vehicle which is going to take you up. That is going to be, the man thinks, wow, is that a fantasy world? Where I have to struggle so much now to go and get river water, and I have to, the lighting of the lamp, I have to climb the mountain. It's all going to be what? Possible like this. Where is the need for Ishvara at that level? Like that. Please understand, when we move from the lamp to electricity, it's not away from Ishvara. You have to understand that.
No, it's like Ishvara is unfolding.
Exactly.
One more.
Excellent. Excellent. Ishvara is unfolding. It is unfolding to what? Our understanding, our collapsing the possibilities. It is unfolding all the time. Excellent words. So that means Ishvara never becomes redundant. Ishvara never becomes obsolete. No matter where the technology goes, everything is within what? The possibilities. The minute you collapse any possibility, a new object will emerge, new things will emerge, and they are all within Ishvara's design. It is constantly unfolding itself. So therefore, Ishvara is not a fixed entity. Parinami upadana karana.
But then how it is separate from, we are saying Ishvara is akarta.
Yeah, so that means within this, see, Ishvara doesn't have a will. A human being figures out,
Yes.
right, that okay, now this lighting the lamp is very, this thing, it looks at what, some laws in the universe that are existing, and he begins to use those laws to produce electricity. So that means Ishvara is what? The intelligence which provides all the possibilities. The minute we collapse any given possibilities, we are able to invent what? New machines. All happens within Ishvara. Ishvara remains akarta. The intelligence remains, it's not engaging. The forms are engaging.
So it's better to say Ishvara is more and more understood. The
Excellent.
Not that Ishvara is doing something unfolding.
Excellent, excellent. The more and more, in fact, what every scientist is doing is actually understanding a given aspect of Ishvara. And having understood that given aspect of Ishvara is what using that knowledge to produce different things. Exactly.
So it's a point, it's all about understanding and changing our brain.
Absolutely. It's all about understanding and changing our whole thinking. Absolutely. So that means it is constantly. So that's why, see, one thing is very important. Your brain is the one which is what has this thing that I'm doing something, right? There's one portion of your brain which is what we call ahankara, that we'll see much later, and that has this whole sense of ownership. What's happening? This is happening to me. This is what is happening. So that is what we call the karta, and that person who is a doer understands many things and does many things and gets result for the actions that one has chosen. Now, what is Ishvara? Is Ishvara that karta? Ishvara is the intelligence which sets up the neurons in a way that what your brain has this capacity. Itself is akarta. So this is why things are going on, Ishvara always remains akarta. It sets up the forms, it sets up the possibilities that are possible within these forms, and the minute you collapse any given possibility, it what changes the universe to produce what? The result. The minute the laws of gravity are there, but when I use my free will to drop it, it will do what? The world has changed because the object which was here is now here.
But the intelligence has not changed.
Sorry, intelligence hasn't changed.
But
Exactly.
the other way of looking at this is also to say that we are only assembling and disassembling things which exist in the universe.
Absolutely.
But you're not really creating.
No,
So
we
to
are
understand
collapsing
the-
potentials.
Yes, we are only collapsing. So
Collapsing
to
potentials.
misunderstand that we are a creator, that creation and this creation is not the same.
And I think what that guy said that there will be clones in this.
Yes,
and
that's
that.
also what
So
So that
Ishvara created us. Whatever we create is also Ishvara's creation because we are his creation.
Not in the sense, no. So for
No,
example,
not this. That's the guy was saying that we produce clones and this and that.
No, what
we
I'm
not
saying-
need Ishvara.
No. The way it has to be taken is, the reason I gave that example is that technologies will change, like how 100 years ago to now, but Ishvara doesn't become obsolete or redundant. All the discoveries, what happened within the possibilities of Ishvara. And Ishvara always remains what? Unengaged. That is, Ishvara always remains akarta, and 100 years from now, maybe we will see a very different universe. And it's true because the possibilities, the knowledge base is constantly increasing, And using that knowledge base, we are constantly engaging in the universe, and we are producing new forms. And then, so that means you will be in a different universe with different kind of forms, different kind of knowledge collapsed. But everything still, Ishvara doesn't become redundant. Everything is within what? Ishvara. And Ishvara is not one fixed entity. Because if it was a fixed entity, when things change, Ishvara becomes obsolete. But if all the possibilities exist within Ishvara, then Ishvara, as Lutz is saying, is constantly unfolding itself.
Yeah, because those possibilities must have been there that we could not identify or discover.
Exactly.
Now we found something new, so we can't
Yes.
say it's our finding.
Exactly.
It was always existed,
Yes.
but we could never discover.
Exactly.
Now we discovered. It's whereas.
Exactly. So that means that is another understanding. It is akarta, and at the same time, it is it's constantly changing. The manifestation of Ishvara is constantly changing.
But if Ishvara collapses, the whole universe collapses.
Yeah. When the whole thing collapses, the time, space, and object universe collapses, then the whole thing collapses. Yes, exactly. So the patterns in the universe keep changing. The patterns in the universe, but Ishvara is one intelligence. No matter how much you are able to change the patterns, Ishvara is never redundant. That is one point. And the second point is, while patterns are changing, Ishvara remains as intelligence akarta. This is what this verse talks about. Understood? Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.